Imagine falling asleep in a Moscow apartment and waking to discover that your entire building, walls, furniture, pipes, and neighbors has changed address. The rooms did not travel in trucks. The building was not dismantled. Thousands of tons of brick and stone moved as one occupied machine. Beneath the sleeping residents, engineers had created a second foundation, one designed not to hold the house still, but to make it roll. This was not a legend invented after the Soviet Union. Moscow really developed a system for relocating large masonry buildings without emptying them. The achievement was spectacular, but it was born from a far less delicate ambition to remake the old capital into a monumental socialist city. Every meter gained for a wider avenue threatened churches, offices, theaters, courtyards, and apartment houses that had stood for generations. Demolition was faster. Yet some buildings were too useful, too valuable, or too politically awkward to destroy. So Moscow attempted something stranger. If the street could not bend around the building would move out of the street. The turning point came with the 1935 General Plan for the Reconstruction of Moscow, approved during Joseph Stalin's rule. The plan imagined straight avenues, larger squares, new bridges, and a capital whose scale would express the power of the state. Gorky Street, today's Tverskaya, was one of the most visible targets. It was narrow, irregular, crowded, and symbolically central. To widen it dramatically, entire frontage lines had to retreat. Hundreds of structures faced alteration or removal. Most buildings marked for clearance were simply destroyed. The celebrated moving houses were exceptions inside a much harsher transformation. Those exceptions required a new kind of organization, part structural laboratory, part railway operation, part underground construction site. Moscow formed a specialist building relocation organization staffed heavily by engineers and workers experienced in metro construction. They understood excavation, load transfer, confined spaces, and the discipline required when a mistake could collapse thousands of tons. One of the central figures was engineer Emmanuel Gendel, who became the Soviet Union's best-known specialist in moving and straightening structures. Before the largest moves, teams tested their methods on smaller structures, learning how steel, masonry, soil, and machinery behaved together. The real work began months before anyone saw a building move. Surveyors measured cracks, settlement, wall thickness, and every load-bearing line. Engineers had to understand not only the building, but the ground beneath it and the route to its new foundation. A destination foundation was prepared in advance, aligned so precisely that the moving structure could meet it without twisting or dropping. Then crews opened trenches around and beneath the occupied building, often while ordinary life continued several floors above. Openings were cut through the lower masonry. Heavy I-beams were inserted through the walls and joined into a rigid steel cage. That cage was the crucial invention. It gathered countless separate walls into one frame capable of carrying the entire building. Without it, the house could crack apart as different sections encountered different resistance on the track. The building's weight was gradually transferred from its old foundation to the new steel structure using carefully placed jacks. This was not a single heroic lift. It was a controlled sequence, repeated point by point, with constant measurements and corrections. Under the frame, workers laid sleepers, rails, and hundreds, or in the largest case thousands, of steel rollers. The rollers reduced friction, but they did not eliminate danger. A misaligned rail could force one part of the building sideways. A sudden change in level could send stresses upward through stairwells, arches, floors, and brittle decorative facades. The route therefore became an engineered surface of its own. Compacted ground, concrete bases, sleepers, rails, drainage, and constant survey control. At the front, winches pulled. At the rear, jacks could push. The building advanced at a pace measured in meters per hour. Slow movement was not weakness. It was the only speed at which thousands of tons could be corrected before a small error became irreversible. Inside the apartments, another engineering problem was just as important. Water, electricity, telephones, sewage, and sometimes gas. Rigid pipes would snap the moment the house moved. Crews replaced vulnerable connections with temporary flexible lines long enough to travel. The building could then slide away from its original network while the services stretched, curved, and followed. Contemporary reports described occupied buildings where telephones worked, taps ran, lights remained on, and residents continued their routines. That decision sounds reckless today. Even then, it transformed a technical operation into a public demonstration of confidence. Keeping people inside reduced disruption, but it also declared that Soviet engineering could control a force that seemed impossible to control. The most famous example was Savvinskoye Podvorye, an ornate pre-revolutionary complex on Gorky Street, built before the Soviet redesign of Moscow. Its decorative tiles, arches, towers, offices, and apartments made it visually unforgettable and extremely difficult to replace. Residents reportedly petitioned for its survival when the widening plan placed it directly in the path of the new avenue. The solution was to move the entire complex backward, almost 50 meters, into the depth of the block. Its mass was estimated at about 23,000 tons, far beyond the scale of the earlier Moscow experiments. Preparation took months. By the time movement began, the building had already been separated from the earth that had held it for decades. Historical retellings often date the move to 1939, but contemporary Moscow reporting places the celebrated operation in early March 1938. The exact date matters less than the physical fact. The house began to travel with residents still inside. The operation started in darkness. Many residents had not been told the precise moment, and some were already asleep. Below them, crews watched rollers, cables, gauges, and alignment points while the enormous structure crept away from Gorky Street. It did not leap 50 meters in a single dramatic rush. The relocation continued over roughly 3 days, controlled step by controlled step. At the end, Savvinskoye Podvorye had shifted approximately 49 meters and 86 centimeters from its original line. A widely repeated story says a tower of toy blocks left on a table remained standing after the movement. Whether remembered as anecdote or symbol, the image captured what engineers wanted the public to believe. The motion had been almost invisible. Yet the house had not simply moved. It had disappeared from the avenue, concealed behind a new Stalin-era frontage built along the widened street. The preserved building survived, but its relationship with the city was transformed. Architecture remained. Visibility was sacrificed. Other Moscow relocations were equally revealing. On Savvinskoye Street, an L-shaped residential block interfered with a new bridge approach. Because the ground was weak and the structure insufficiently rigid, engineers divided the building and rotated one section by 19 degrees. The maneuver took several days, and residents remained in their apartments while their building changed both position and direction. Near the construction of the Bolshoi Kameny Bridge, another 5-story apartment building had to be raised nearly 2 meters before it could move. That structure weighed about 7,500 tons, yet reports said ordinary utilities and daily life continued during the operation. The pattern was repeated across pre-war Moscow, months of hidden preparation, followed by a few days when the impossible became visible. By one widely cited count, 23 stone buildings were relocated in Moscow before the Second World War. Some were residential. Others served government, cultural, or institutional purposes. Each required a custom solution rather than a standard machine. Even the Moscow Soviet building, today associated with city government, was later moved together with parts of its foundation and basement. This was precision engineering, but it was also theater. The state used construction to present modernity as something measurable, disciplined, and victorious. The narrative of sleeping residents was especially powerful because it turned massive force into apparent gentleness. But the calm image should not erase the political setting. Moscow's reconstruction displaced communities and destroyed many structures that were not saved. The moving houses were brilliant solutions inside an authoritarian transformation, where preservation depended on usefulness, influence, and political choice. They prove that engineering can preserve history. They also show that preservation can be selective, strategic, and deeply unequal. Why did Moscow stop moving large buildings so often? The answer was not that the method failed. The process demanded months of design, excavation, steel, labor, and uninterrupted supervision for a journey of only a few dozen meters. War redirected resources. Post-war construction favored new mass housing, and demolition increasingly appeared cheaper than surgical relocation. Later projects still used the technique, but the Great Pre-War Campaign became a rare chapter rather than a permanent urban method. Today, the most famous survivor stands hidden inside the block at Savvinskoye No. 6, invisible to most people passing the avenue. Its location is the final trick of the story. The building survived precisely because it was removed from the view it once defined. Beneath its walls, the original rails and rollers are gone, but the logic of the move remains embedded in the city's geometry. A street grew wider. A facade vanished. Thousands of tons crossed a construction site without being dismantled. And for the people inside, history did not arrive as an explosion. It arrived as a nearly silent change beyond the window. Moscow's moving houses remain a reminder that cities are not fixed objects. They are decisions made physical. Sometimes those decisions destroy the past. Sometimes they conceal it. And, on rare nights, they place it on rails and move it whole.